Hello everyone to my very first Blender tutorial. When you start up Blender, you should see something like this. Currently the version is 3.2.1, but if you don't have the same version, it should be fine because they're updating this all the time. By the time you watch this, it might be on version 4. Just saying. Okay, so you just click. And usually when you start it up, they give you this cube, and a lot of people just delete the cube, but we're gonna leave it. We like the cube. You also have this. This is the light source, and this is the camera. And we're not gonna need these, so and I'm pressing left click to select, and you can also drag, obviously, and left click to, and then we're just gonna delete those. Okay, we don't need them. They're kind of a distraction for us. So let me turn this on real quick so you can see what keys I'm pressing, okay? So here, it's left click to select this object, and there are 3 modes that we're going to talk about: object mode, edit mode, and sculpt mode. Today, we're only going to talk about object mode. So in object mode, you left click to select an object. And then to manipulate this object, we're actually going to click this, move. And as you can see, these colored arrows show up, and these represent the different axes. Let's talk about this. Numpad 1 to get a front view, so the cube is looking directly at us. So the x-axis is the left and right, okay? And if you can move it like this, okay, but Control Z to put it back. And if you're moving it and you did it by accident or something, you could always right click to put it back to where it was, okay? So this is a Z, right click to put it back, and then Numpad 3 is the side view, front view, side view, and this would be like forward and back, okay? If that's confusing, that's okay. We'll talk more about that later. It's hard because this is a cube. I'm just going to do this real quick. Yeah. Okay, let's say this half a sphere is our face. So if you press 1, that's the front view. 3 is the side view, and 7 is the top view. Okay? Let's get rid of this for now. I guess I'll talk about the other numpads. 5 kind of lines it up straight in this like unnatural, like, yeah, this don't ever do that, okay? It's just, it doesn't look right. It's for like, I don't know, math. Everything is like parallel. No. And then the 8, 4, 6, 2, it just moves it by increments in those, like if you think of it like a D-pad, it just moves it around. And then if you press 9, it's just the opposite of whatever way you're looking. Okay, so that's all about the numpad. Okay, so one thing I should probably talk about is like how to look around, like navigation. So as you can see, I'm pressing and holding the middle mouse button to look around. And if you scroll, it zooms, and then scroll down to zoom out. And if you hold Shift and press the middle mouse button and hold it, you can pan, like left, right, up, and down, okay? So maybe just take a moment and practice that until you're comfortable looking around in this like 3D space, okay? Make sure you put some like Numpad 1, 2, and 7 in there too. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. So we put this, so there's move, rotate, and scale. That's all we're going to talk about, just these 3. And you can press these to, like, you know, scale it manually, but we're going to leave it on the move and just use the shortcuts for rotating. So let's do the scale first, because then we'll know how this is rotating. So if you press S, you can scale it up, scale it down. You can also be more precise. Let's say you want to scale it by 2. Now this is actually 8 times the size because it increased each value, each axis by 2. So it went 2, on the X, 2 on the Z, and 2 on the Y. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So this is 8 times the size. So let's Control Z to put it back. Let's say you want it to be double the size in its width. So the x-axis. So you press S to scale, X to constrain it on the x-axis, and then press 2 to have it double the size. So now when we look at it, you see it's exactly twice the size it was before. Okay, so like if we go, this is the side view, it's, there's 2 of these lengths. We're not going to talk about that right now, but as you can see, this is 4. Let's do. Okay, so let's scale on the Z. Let's go by 3. So this should be, yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And yeah. Okay, so that's how you can scale things and make objects. Like this is starting to look like a wall. So I'm going to make it into a wall by scaling it on the Y just a little thinner like that. Okay, so now let's talk about rotate. It's R to rotate. And now this is kind of chaotic, right? Like if I were to do that, don't ever do that unless that's what you want. Control Z. We're gonna rotate and then constrain it on some kind of axis. So if you press Z, it'll spin like a revolving door. Rotate X to kind of move it on the x-axis. And let's say we're trying to make a slope, right? So we can go like 45 degrees. Well, let's say you want to go the other way. Rotate X on the 90 degrees. Okay. So let's Control Z, Control Z. And then, the Y. Okay. So that's how you use those. So for the next part, we're going to learn how to add objects. And it's really simple. You just go to here, add, mesh, and then let's add a cube. So this is like, how we started, right? And I guess I'll talk about this cursor real quick. So the object will be placed where the cursor is. Right now it's in the middle of everything. And you can press this and move it so that whenever you add an object, it'll go there. But I usually don't do that because the cursor, it's like you press it somewhere and it's like really wonky. So we don't want that. And as you'll notice, if you Control Z, the cursor doesn't register as like a command that you can undo. So you have to press Shift and C to center it back. So Control, just Shift C, okay, and then get out of this. Don't ever click this. I hate it. Okay. So we're gonna add a mesh. We're gonna add the UV sphere. Now there's the icosphere. I don't like the icosphere because it's triangles, and that just seems a little too hard to work with for our purposes. We're going to add a UV sphere, which is, quadrilaterals. We like quadrilaterals. All right. So that's how you add an object. And you can also add like a cylinder, classic cylinder. We're going to scale that down. Scale it up a little bit. Scale it like this. And yeah. So those are probably the three. Yeah, so there's like a cone, a torus, a plane. But these three are the ones we're going to talk about for now. But now we have to talk about the Shift D. Shift D is to duplicate an object. And again, it's kind of chaotic. Like this is moving in all three axes. All three axes. So we're going to right click to put it back where we found it. And just use the move, right? Told you, it's the best. And then we're going to put it here and we're going to scale it down like so to make like a, yeah. Comment down below if you know what I'm trying to make. Okay. It's a person. We're going to Shift D again, move this down a little bit and then scale it up. You know what? Let's rotate this on the X to give it like, 45. Nope. Nope. Rotate on the X. How do I do this? Negative 45. Okay. Negative 45 works. Like so. So that it's kind of like, this is like your shoulder and this arm. The arm's a little bit. And then we'll shift this. Let's get it down. It's like a little ball fist. And I probably should have, no. And then Shift D to make a little torso. Shift D again to make a hip area. And as you'll notice, I'm only doing one side because now we're going to talk about one of the best things about Blender. This little wrench right here. It's called a modifier. We're going to add a modifier. Shoot. We're going to add a modifier to this shoulder piece. We're going to add, there's a lot of modifiers and we'll talk about them, but the one we're going to talk about is the Mirror Modifier. So we're going to mirror it, and right now nothing happens, but if we click on this and pick this as our mirror object, it'll mirror this. Right now it's mirroring it on the x-axis, but if we were to move this, we could change it to the y, or the z, or all of them. Okay, but we want it on the x. Okay, and you could do that with, all of them. Mirror, boom, mirror, boom, mirror, boom. I guess one thing I should have done is that if, let's say I were to add a mirror to this, okay, and then duplicated it, as you can see, the mirror applies for both. So that would have been a lot easier because then I wouldn't have to mirror everything across, right? And as you can see, you know what, let's give themselves a little shoebox foot. Okay. Also, something worth noting is if you ever like move this object, everything's being mirrored through this object. So if you were to move it, as you can see, everything will equally distance itself. Okay, so let's right click to put it back. Okay, one thing I should really tell you that, so right now with the mirror modifier applied, no, that's the wrong wording, sorry. So when you do the mirror modifier, you have this box where, you know, this is like how you pick the object and what axis it is. We won't talk about the other stuff right now. But this, until you apply it, is just like, kind of like a preview of what it can be, right? So as you can see, it's still like mirrored. Bisecting is if it crosses, it kind of merges into one object. So if you just, you know, so that's bisecting. We don't want to do that. Or we don't really care about that right now. Until you apply it, right? So you can go here to this down arrow and click apply. And now this has been mirrored. It is set. So now if you try to move it, they move together, right? And you can separate these so that they are two separate objects, but we'll talk about that when we talk about editing. So yeah, if you like how it is, apply it, because this mirrored object kind of doesn't exist until you apply it. Okay, so you can do this down arrow and then press apply, or you could just, I'm holding shift to select all of these, and then we're gonna control A and then visual geometry to mesh. So that'll apply all of the objects. As you can see, there's no more like preview box is what I call it. Now they're all pretty much set. Okay. So yeah, when I model things, I kind of leave it up until the last moment. But yeah, I think that is a good place for us to stop today. So your homework for today is to make something as bad and low poly as this, this sphere, cube, cylinder man. Doesn't have to be a man. It could be a dog. A bird might be a little hard, but you know, a horse, whatever. Just practice adding objects, scaling them, and using the mirror modifier. Okay? And yeah. And then we'll learn more in the next lesson, okay? So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.